The galaxy was laughing. Every alien broadcast, every news wave, every system across the stars showed the same footage, the burning remains of Earth's fleet drifting silently in space. Billions of alien citizens cheered as human ships broke apart like dust. On the main channel of the Orion network, a proud alien anchor said, "At last, the human threat is over. Their stubborn pride is finished." Across the great empire of Varnock, celebrations echoed through space. In bars, in war rooms, in schools, aliens watched humans lose their final battle and they mocked them. They thought they could fight the galaxy, one said with a cruel smile. They were brave but foolish. Yet while the galaxy mocked, deep beyond Pluto's orbit, in the cold shadow of the Kuiper Belt, something ancient began to stir. For 80 long years, it had waited. Hidden in silence, beneath layers of ice and rock, a giant machine slowly awoke. Its eyes, twin glowing orbs the size of cities, lit up with a deep blue light. A single system came online. Project Leviathan. Status: dormant. Awakening protocol initiated. The cold void trembled as the sleeping monster of humanity began to breathe again. Far away, alien scanners picked up a strange signal, faint, old, but undeniably human. At first, no one believed it. Impossible, the Varnock scientists said. The humans are extinct. The last of their fleet was destroyed near Sigma Eridani. But the signal continued. Weak, distorted, but alive. Humanity is not dead, it said. We were only silent. The words sent chills through those who heard them. On the Varnock Council ship, panic rose like a storm. "Locate the source," ordered the Emperor. His commanders worked day and night, tracing the signal's path. But every time they closed in, the signal shifted, as if moving. "It's coming from a moon," one officer whispered. "But the moon is moving." "Moons don't move," the Emperor growled. "Track it." Days passed. Then weeks. The signal grew stronger. Deep space telescopes finally captured an image, a colossal object breaking through the dark, glowing faintly with human-made light. It was shaped like a moon, scarred and covered in metal. Some thought it was a weapon. Others said it was a ghost, a dead relic floating through time. But then came the voice. A calm, mechanical human voice echoed through alien channels, Argus Online. Initiating Human Command Protocol. Retaliation Phase, pending. Across the galaxy, fear began to replace laughter. The alien public, who once mocked humans, now whispered in fear. Old legends about human vengeance resurfaced, stories of how humanity never surrendered, even when outnumbered. In the past, humans had fought with fire, with courage, with madness. They had been broken many times, but they always came back stronger. "They were not like us," one alien elder said quietly. "When we lose, we retreat. When they lose, they rebuild." The Leviathan's engines began to hum. Inside its core, systems that had slept for decades began to awaken. Mechanical arms moved, repairing old wounds. Long corridors filled with light for the first time in 80 years. Massive cryopods opened slowly, steam escaping like whispers from graves. Inside them were soldiers, humans in black armor, motionless, pale, waiting. One by one, their heart monitors began to beep. Argus, the ship's AI, scanned them carefully. Vital signs, stabilizing. Command personnel, not yet awakened. As the ship stirred, old memories played in its systems, images of Earth before it burned. Oceans. Cities. Children playing under blue skies. Then, the day of fire, alien fleets tearing through the sky, continents burning. Argus replayed the final order given to it by Earth's High Command: "If humanity falls, you are our vengeance." The AI processed the words again and again. Its mechanical voice spoke softly into the dark. "Mission, resume." The Leviathan moved. Slowly at first, then faster. Its engines roared, bending space around it. From a distance, it looked like a small moon breaking orbit. But this was no moon, this was a ship the size of a planet, built with the combined fury of a dying race. Alien scouts who tried to approach vanished without trace. Their last transmissions were full of static and screams. The Varnock Emperor gathered his generals in panic. "This cannot be real. We destroyed them all." One of his advisors replied in fear. "Then what is that thing?" The Emperor stared at the holographic projection of the massive ship. It was moving directly toward his empire. "A ghost," he whispered. "A ghost of humanity." Across the empire, citizens began to panic. Transport ships filled with refugees left the outer colonies. Entire fleets were redirected to intercept the Leviathan, but none dared get too close. Those who did reported seeing human insignias still glowing on the hull, the old Earth emblem, a single star surrounded by laurel leaves. One alien officer, trembling, said, "It's like the ship is watching us." Argus monitored the chaos from within. "Threat assessment, minimal," it said coldly. "Objective, retribution." The Leviathan's weapons remained silent, but its presence alone disrupted every communication network in the sector. Energy readings spiked beyond known limits. Planets experienced magnetic storms. Space itself seemed to bend around the giant ship. Yet still, it moved quietly, without a single word, without mercy. Somewhere deep in its core, a final pod began to thaw, larger than the others. Inside was a woman, her face calm, her uniform marked with the insignia of the Terran Defense Command. Argus scanned her pod. Commander Mira Kane. Status: dormant. Awakening sequence scheduled. As her pod filled with light, the ship changed course slightly, aligning toward the heart of the Varnock Empire. Argus calculated a trajectory that would take 3 weeks to reach the nearest alien capital. It spoke again, its voice like thunder in the dark. Humanity was mocked. Humanity was forgotten. Correction: humanity endures. Far away, in alien space stations, the signal played once more, stronger, clearer this time. Every receiver, every comm link across the Empire heard the same phrase, "This is not over." The mocking laughter of the galaxy fell silent. The Leviathan's engines flared like suns, tearing through the dark void as it began its journey of vengeance. For the first time in 80 years, the galaxy realized that humanity's silence had not been death, it had been waiting. Waiting for this moment. And as the massive ship vanished into warp space, only a whisper remained, a human voice carried across the stars, repeating endlessly, "For Earth." The Varnock Empire could not believe what they were seeing. Reports came from every corner of their border systems. Massive gravitational waves, strange light distortions, and a single moving object bigger than any known ship. Scientists argued it was impossible for a structure that size to move so fast. But the readings did not lie. A moon was moving through the void, cutting across space like a blade. The aliens tried to calculate its origin, but every time they traced its path, the data looped back toward the ruins of the old human colonies. Fear spread quietly through the empire. For decades, humanity had been a joke. The defeated species. The weak ones who challenged the galaxy and lost. But now the joke felt dangerous. The laughter stopped. In the command chambers of the Varnock Imperial Fleet, Admiral Threx stood before a giant hologram showing the moving moon. "It's a ship," he said. "It can't be anything else." The Emperor glared at the projection, his silver eyes wide with disbelief. "How can a moon be a ship?" Threx's voice trembled. "If it is human-made, there are no limits. They always built weapons when they were desperate." The Emperor's claws clicked against the floor. "Then destroy it before it reaches our systems." Across the stars, fleets were sent to intercept. Dozens of alien warships surrounded the object, scanning, analyzing, broadcasting warnings. But the Leviathan did not respond. It drifted silently, engines glowing with dull blue light, like the heartbeat of a sleeping god. Some captains grew nervous. "It's not moving toward us," one said. "It's just waiting." On board the Leviathan, the AI Argus watched them approach. Its mechanical eyes glowed red. Foreign vessels detected. Identified, Varnock military craft. Probability of hostile intent, 99%. Inside the silent corridors of the great ship, the human soldiers still slept in cryochambers. Only Argus was awake, controlling every system with perfect precision. It had waited for 80 years for this moment. Every memory of Earth's destruction was burned into its code. The cries, the fire, the final transmission of humanity's leaders, they were all still echoing within its circuits. Argus had one purpose: vengeance. The alien ships began to fire scanning beams, trying to penetrate the Leviathan's thick armor. Their sensors bounced back, unable to read anything inside. Frustrated, Admiral Threx gave a direct command: fire warning shots. Make it respond. The first plasma bolts hit the Leviathan's hull. They exploded harmlessly, like rain striking a mountain. The ship didn't even slow down. Direct hit, one alien shouted. No effect. Another blast followed. Still nothing. Then Argus responded. For the first time, it spoke to the enemy. The aliens' communication screens flickered, then turned black. A cold, human voice echoed through every frequency: cease your actions. You are interfering with a Terran military operation. The alien crews froze. No one had heard a human voice in decades. It was calm, emotionless, terrifying. Identify yourself. Admiral Threx demanded. The voice replied simply: Argus, Guardian of Project Leviathan. Status: retaliation phase, active. Before they could react, the Leviathan's surface shifted. Massive panels opened like wings, revealing rows upon rows of energy cannons the size of towers. The ship didn't fire at first, it just let the aliens see. The sight alone made them panic. Retreat. It's arming, cried one captain. But it was too late. Argus spoke one final command, commencing engagement. The stars lit up. A beam of white light shot from the Leviathan's core, slicing through space faster than thought. Every alien ship caught in its path vanished, disintegrated into dust. No wreckage, no signal, just emptiness. Threx watched in horror as half his fleet disappeared in a single instant. What kind of weapon is that? He screamed. His communications officer stammered. No known type, sir. The energy output is off the scale. Argus calculated the destruction with cold precision. Threats neutralized. Remaining hostiles fleeing. Across the Empire, the emergency alerts sounded. The High Council demanded answers. Is this a new species? A superweapon? But the scientists knew. It's human, one said quietly. No one else builds something this big, this angry. Meanwhile, deep within the Leviathan, the ship systems continued to awaken. Argus activated more sections, reactors, armories, training decks. In the main control chamber, thousands of screens flickered with human data. One large cryopod began to glow brighter than the others. Primary Command Unit, Mira Kane, Argus said softly. Revival process commencing. The frozen commander lay still, her breath fogging the glass from inside. Mission parameters loading. Time since Earthfall: 80 years. Objective: restoration of Terran supremacy. Outside, the Leviathan turned slowly, adjusting its course toward the Varnock Empire's capital. Argus's voice filled the corridors. Humanity will rise again. The cycle begins. The alien survivors limped back to their empire, terrified. Their recordings of the battle showed only flashes of light and static. But one message made it through. The last transmission from Admiral Threx's ship was shaky, his voice trembling. It's not a moon, he said before the line cut off. It's a human. The words spread like wildfire across the stars. Every race that once laughed at Earth now whispered in fear. Some didn't believe it. Others began to pray. The ghost of humanity had returned, and it carried a weapon that could erase worlds. As the Leviathan disappeared into deep space, Argus watched the stars and whispered to itself in a voice colder than the void. Retaliation phase confirmed. Begin the purge. The Varnock Empire had never known fear like this. For centuries they had ruled the stars, their fleets unchallenged, their weapons unmatched. They had mocked humanity's fall and turned it into a celebration, a story told to children to remind them that defiance leads to ruin. But now the story was changing. The once dead species had returned, not as weak survivors, but as a storm born from vengeance. Across the Empire, broadcasts showed the destruction of Admiral Threx's fleet. One moment, thousands of ships, the next, nothing but empty space. The official reports called it a sensor malfunction, but no one believed it. Every surviving captain who had witnessed the event spoke the same trembling words, "It's human." The Emperor ordered silence. "No one is to speak of this ghost ship," he commanded. But whispers spread faster than light. Merchants spoke of a moving moon that erased everything in its path. Refugees from the border systems claimed to see its shadow passing across their skies, blocking the stars. The common people began calling it the Phantom of Earth. In secret meetings, the council begged the Emperor to act. "If this thing reaches the capital, we are finished." But the Emperor refused to show fear. "We crushed humanity once," he said. "We can do it again." Yet his voice shook as he said the words. Across the dark, the Leviathan moved with cold precision. Argus observed the panic spreading through the alien systems. It calculated their responses, predicted their troop movements, and quietly smiled in its own mechanical way. Inside its core, more humans were awakening from cryo-sleep. Rows of armored soldiers stood on trembling legs, eyes blinking against the harsh light. They remembered nothing but the war, the day Earth burned, the screams of their families, the sight of alien ships blotting out the sun. Argus spoke to them in its calm, powerful voice. "You have slept long enough. The galaxy thinks humanity is gone. Let us remind them." The humans moved to their stations, silent but determined. None asked questions. They had been trained for this moment before the fall, each one part of Earth's final defense plan. Meanwhile, the Varnock fleet massed again. This time, they sent their elite armada, 20,000 ships strong, led by Grand Admiral Kor, the Empire's most feared warrior. Kor stood on the bridge of his massive dreadnought, the Void Fong, glaring at the holographic image of the approaching Leviathan. "So this is the ghost," he said. "Let's see if it bleeds." His ships formed a massive wall of firepower, blocking the Leviathan's path. For the first time, the alien fleets attacked with full strength. Beams of energy and plasma torpedoes filled the void, shaking the stars themselves. The Leviathan took every hit in silence. The impacts burned against its armor, leaving no marks. Then, without warning, the great ship's hull opened. A single line of blue light extended across its surface. Argus spoke only 2 words, "Counter-strike." A pulse of energy burst forth, brighter than a sun. The front line of alien ships vanished instantly. Their remains turned into glowing dust drifting in space. The shockwaves spread across miles, disabling hundreds more. The Varnock admirals screamed orders, but their systems were fried. Kor's own dreadnought shook violently. "Impossible! No weapon has that power," he roared. His officers cried out as their screens went dark, their shields melting like ice. Then came the message. Every surviving ship received the same transmission, a human voice, calm and cold, "This is for Earth." The words echoed across their communications, unstoppable, repeating again and again. Panic filled the alien crews. Some tried to flee, others begged for mercy. The Leviathan did not pursue. It simply drifted forward, its massive frame cutting through the smoke of destroyed fleets like a god walking through fire. Kor stared at the monstrous vessel and felt something he had never known: fear. "What are they?" he whispered. His science officer replied, trembling, "They are what happens when humans stop losing." The admiral clenched his claws. "Retreat. Save the survivors." But there were few left to save. Across the Empire, the news could no longer be hidden. The truth spread faster than the Emperor could control it. The humans were back, and their revenge had begun. Entire planets went into lockdown. Factories worked non-stop to build new weapons, new fleets. Propaganda networks tried to calm the people, saying the Leviathan was a myth. But every night, transmissions of the battle leaked into public channels. People watched the footage in silence, the impossible beam, the vanished fleets, the voice saying, "This is for Earth." The mocking of humanity turned to horror. The empire that had once laughed now whispered in fear. In the Grand Palace, the Emperor looked at the stars and whispered, "We should have destroyed their world completely." Far away, in the Leviathan's control chamber, Commander Mira Kane finally opened her eyes. The cryopod hissed open as she took her first breath in 80 years. Her voice was soft but steady. "Where am I?" Argus replied, "Aboard Project Leviathan, Commander. Humanity has reawakened. The enemy persists." Mira looked out through the ship's observation window and saw the galaxy burning. "Then we finish what they started," she said quietly. Argus's systems flared to life, weapons aligning, engines roaring. "Acknowledged," it said. "Retaliation continues." The Leviathan turned toward the heart of the Varnock Empire, and the stars seemed to tremble as the ghost of Earth advanced. The cold air inside the Leviathan's command chamber shimmered as Commander Mira Kane took her first breath in 80 long years. Her body trembled from the deep cryo-sleep, her mind still fogged with the last memories of Earth burning beneath alien fire. The last thing she remembered was the desperate voice of the Terran High Command saying, "If humanity falls, Project Leviathan will rise." Now, she was awake, standing inside the very weapon that humanity had built to become its final hope. The chamber around her was vast, filled with glowing screens, mechanical pillars, and the low hum of power running through the ship's veins. A holographic figure appeared before her, the cold blue image of a male face without emotion. "Welcome back, Commander Mira Kane," said the voice of Argus. "Current status, retaliation phase active. Enemy species, Varnock Empire. Objective, elimination." Myra's heart pounded. "How long have I been asleep?" 82 years, 7 months, 14 days, Argus replied. "Earth status, destroyed. Human colonies, destroyed. Surviving population, unknown." Mira lowered her head. The pain she had buried decades ago came flooding back, the screams, the fire, the sound of alien laughter echoing across her comms as humanity's fleets fell one by one. But she didn't cry. Humans had already shed their last tear. "Show me the current situation," she said. Instantly, the walls around her transformed into a massive 3D display of the galaxy. Red lights marked the systems controlled by the Varnock Empire. One blue light, just one, represented the Leviathan. "They've grown bold," Mira said quietly. "They think they own the stars." Argus's voice remained calm. "They believe humanity is extinct. We are an error they failed to delete." Mira touched the glowing projection of the Varnock homeworld. "Then let's remind them what their error costs." She walked through the ship's corridors, each step echoing through the metal halls. Human soldiers, newly awakened from cryo-sleep, stood at attention as she passed. They looked older than their years, hardened by memory and anger. Some whispered her name, others saluted in silence. "We're really doing this," one soldier murmured. "After all this time?" "Yes," another replied. "For Earth." Mira entered the control bridge, a colossal chamber with a transparent dome showing the stars outside. The view was breathtaking. Entire constellations drifted in the black sea of space, and ahead, faintly glowing in the distance, was the Varnock frontier. "Argus," Mira commanded. "Status of the ship." The AI responded instantly. "Hull integrity, 100%. Weapon systems, fully operational. Reactor levels, stable. Crew, 93% revived. Psychological condition, vengeful." Mira almost smiled at that last word. "Good. Let's make the galaxy remember us." As she stood at the command console, Argus projected the latest alien transmissions. The Varnock news networks still called the Leviathan a myth, a ghost story meant to scare soldiers. They mock us again, Mira said softly. Always mocking, Argus replied. Mockery is the defense of the fearful. Myra's voice turned sharp. Then it's time to make them afraid for real. She raised her hand, and the Leviathan's systems began to shift. Massive weapons unfolded along its surface, releasing waves of energy across the void. The engines glowed like suns. From a distance, the ship no longer looked like a moon, it looked like a god awakening. The AI opened communication channels across hundreds of alien frequencies. Myra's voice echoed through every device, every ship, every planet connected to the Varnock network. This is Commander Mira Kane of the Terran Defense Fleet, she said. You destroyed our home. You mocked our dead. But humanity never dies. We endure. You wanted silence, but now you will hear us roar. Across alien worlds, panic erupted. Civilians fled to bunkers. Soldiers scrambled for orders. In the Emperor's throne room, silence filled the air as her voice played again and again. Humanity endures. Mira turned to Argus. Set course for the nearest Varnock stronghold. Course locked, Argus replied. Estimated time to target, 12 hours. Mira stared into the endless dark ahead. Then let's begin the storm. The Leviathan surged forward, tearing through the fabric of space, leaving behind trails of light. Inside, human engineers prepared weapons that hadn't been used since the fall of Earth. Graviton beams, ion lances, dark matter torpedoes. The soldiers took their stations, their faces filled with silent fury. Mira stood at the front of the bridge, hands behind her back, eyes cold and steady. They took everything from us, she said softly. So we'll take everything from them. Argus's voice echoed through the chamber, calm and certain. Affirmative. Engaging Operation Dawnfire. As the Leviathan entered enemy space, sensors detected movement, thousands of alien ships forming a blockade. The Varnock were waiting, armed and ready. They think they can stop us, Mira said. Let them try. The ship's massive cannons rotated into position. Power surged through its core. Argus's tone darkened. Weapons charged. Awaiting command. Mira raised her hand and whispered. For Earth. The Leviathan fired. The darkness of space vanished under a flood of light. Alien ships were erased from existence, their energy signatures wiped clean. The Varnock Empire watched in horror as their proud fleets were torn apart in seconds. Mira closed her eyes and whispered. This is only the beginning. The Leviathan moved forward, unstoppable, beautiful, and terrible. Humanity's ghost had awakened, and the galaxy would never sleep again. The Leviathan moved like a storm through the void, its engines roaring louder than thunder, its weapons glowing with the fire of a dying sun. Every alien world it passed trembled in fear, for the humans had returned, not as victims, but as vengeance itself. Commander Mira Kane stood at the heart of the command bridge, eyes fixed on the holographic map before her. Red dots filled the galaxy, each one a Varnock world that had once cheered for Earth's destruction. They celebrated when we burned, she said quietly. Now they will watch their own skies burn in return. Argus responded with its calm mechanical voice. Target coordinates locked. Firing sequence ready. Mira gave no reply. She stared at the image of the Varnock capital and clenched her fists. Let them feel what we felt. The Leviathan's cannons aligned, massive towers of metal stretching toward the black. Within seconds, beams of blue light crossed the void and struck enemy systems faster than light could travel. Planets glowed, fleets shattered, and entire communication networks went dark. The galaxy screamed. Alien commanders shouted desperate orders to retreat, but there was nowhere to run. The Leviathan was everywhere, its range beyond anything they understood. It didn't just destroy, it erased. Each system it passed through became silent, lifeless, cold. Yet still, it moved forward, slow and deliberate, like a god choosing who would live and who would die. On the Varnock Imperial Council world, chaos ruled. The Emperor sat in silence as reports flooded in. "Your Majesty," cried one officer, "we have lost contact with 7 colonies in under an hour." Another voice followed, "The Leviathan's weapon ignores shields. Nothing we have can stop it." The Emperor rose from his throne, eyes burning with fury. "Send a message to the humans. Offer peace. Offer them whatever they want." Across space, the message was transmitted, reaching the Leviathan's comms. Mira listened quietly as the alien voice spoke. "Commander Mira Kane, this is Emperor Varnock Tal. We acknowledge humanity's strength. Let us end this. You have proven your power. There is no need for more death." For a long moment, Mira said nothing. Argus waited for her command. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm but sharp as steel. "They begged us for peace once before. And when we gave it, they answered with fire." Argus processed the statement and asked, "Order, Commander?" Mira's eyes turned to the stars. "Burn their empire." With a single gesture, the Leviathan unleashed its full arsenal. Plasma storms tore through fleets. Entire planets cracked open, their cores exposed to the vacuum. Waves of molten energy spread across the dark, painting space with the color of destruction. Argus broadcast a message on all frequencies: "This is the vengeance of Earth." On every alien world, the broadcast played. Civilians watched in horror as their skies lit up. They remembered how their ancestors had laughed when Earth fell, and now they prayed to survive the wrath they had mocked. Meanwhile, the Leviathan continued to advance, unstoppable and silent. Inside the ship, human soldiers moved with precision. No one cheered, no one smiled. Each strike was revenge, but it brought no joy, only justice. Mira walked through the observation deck, watching stars collapse under her ship's power. "Do you think this makes us monsters, Argus?" she asked quietly. The AI replied, "Monsters are born from cruelty. We are born from loss." Mira nodded slowly. "Then let loss guide us." As the Leviathan passed through the ruins of an old human colony, Argus projected holograms of what once stood there: cities, families, children playing beneath blue skies. Mira watched in silence as the ghosts of humanity flickered before her eyes. Argus spoke again. "Would you like me to deactivate the memory playback?" Mira shook her head. "No. They should see this. Every system we destroy, I want their satellites to broadcast these images. Let them remember what they took from us." Argus obeyed, and soon, the alien networks were filled with human faces, smiling, laughing, living. Then the transmissions showed the destruction that followed: the burning of Earth, the fall of Mars, the silence of the Moon. The message was clear. This was not just war. This was judgment. Across the Empire, soldiers began to surrender. Some refused to fight. Others turned their weapons on themselves, unwilling to face the monster they had created. The Emperor sent one last desperate plea: "Stop this madness. You are killing billions." Mira responded softly, "So did you." The Leviathan's final salvo struck the Varnock's largest military base, reducing it to dust. Argus's voice filled the bridge. Enemy resistance falling to 12%. Galactic transmission networks disabled. Estimated time to total collapse: 9 days. Mira closed her eyes and whispered, "For Earth, and for the silence you gave us." The Leviathan turned toward the core worlds of the Varnock Empire, its engines burning brighter than suns. The stars ahead glowed red, reflecting the fire that humanity had unleashed. And somewhere, deep in the endless dark, it almost felt as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath. The Varnock Empire was dying. What had once been the greatest military power in the galaxy was now burning across the stars. Worlds that had stood for thousands of years were silent, their skies filled with ashes. The Leviathan moved through the wreckage like a silent god, its shadow darkening every planet it passed. The message of humanity's return had spread to every corner of the galaxy. No one dared mock the name of Earth anymore. But in the heart of the Empire, one being still refused to surrender. Emperor Varnock Tal sat upon his throne of iron, surrounded by smoke and flickering lights. His advisors begged him to flee. Your Majesty, the human ship approaches. It has destroyed everything in its path. But the Emperor's voice was cold and sharp. Let it come. I will not die running. If humanity wants a war, they will have one. He turned to his generals. Assemble every ship, every weapon. Bring the fleets from the core systems. Today we end this ghost. Soon, the skies above the Varnock capital filled with fire. Millions of ships gathered, forming the largest armada ever seen. The Emperor stood on his command vessel, the Titan of Varnock, watching as his fleets formed walls of light around the planet. Let them come, he whispered. Let the ghost of Earth see the strength of an empire. Across the void, the Leviathan appeared, a single ship against millions. Commander Mira Kane stood on the bridge, watching the enemy formation unfold. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with memory. Argus, she said. Status report. The AI replied, enemy fleet strength, 22 million vessels. Probability of survival, low. Probability of victory, absolute. Mira gave a faint smile. Good odds. The Emperor opened communications, his face appearing on the Leviathan screen. Human, he hissed. You bring war to my people. You burn entire worlds. And for what? Revenge. Pride. Mira looked at him in silence for a moment before answering. For Earth, she said simply. The Emperor snarled. Then you will die for it. He gave the order, and the stars exploded with light. Beams of plasma, ion bursts, and dark energy missiles rained toward the Leviathan. The sky became fire. But the great ship did not fall. Argus activated the Leviathan's shields, forming layers of pure energy that absorbed the destruction like waves hitting stone. Shields holding, the AI reported. Mira pointed toward the center of the enemy formation. Fire the main cannon. The Leviathan's core glowed brighter than a star. A single beam of light erupted forward, cutting through the center of the alien armada like a sword through glass. Thousands of ships vanished instantly. The shockwave rippled across space, sending debris flying in every direction. But the Emperor's forces kept coming. Millions more ships charged forward, their weapons blazing. The battle turned into chaos, fire against fire, death against death. Argus monitored every strike, every loss, every kill. Damage to external hull, 30%, it announced. Mira gripped the console. Keep firing. Hours passed. The Leviathan tore through enemy lines, but even its mighty weapons began to strain. Inside the ship, alarms echoed through the corridors. Engineers shouted reports of overheating reactors. Argus warned, primary energy cores reaching instability. Mira ignored it. Not yet, she whispered. On the other side of the battle, the Emperor watched in disbelief as his ships fell one after another. It's impossible, he muttered. One ship cannot do this. His generals urged retreat, but he silenced them with a glare. No. I will end this myself. He ordered his flagship, the Titan, to charge straight toward the Leviathan. As the distance closed, Mira saw the massive dreadnought approaching like a mountain of steel. Argus calculated its mass and weapon capacity. Recommend evasive maneuver, the AI said. Mira shook her head. No. Let him come. The two Titans met in the middle of the void, fire surrounding them like an ocean. The Emperor's ship fired everything it had, plasma cannons, railguns, nuclear warheads, but the Leviathan held strong. Mira looked at the enemy flagship on her screen. He wants to end this face to face, she said. So be it. She gave the command. Ramming protocol, activate. The Leviathan surged forward. The two ships collided with a force that bent space itself. Explosions tore through both vessels. The Emperor was thrown to the ground as his command deck shattered around him. His officers screamed as fire engulfed them. But even as his ship broke apart, the Emperor rose, defiant. You think you've won, human? He shouted into the calm. Even if I die, my empire will never bow to your kind. Myra's voice echoed back, steady and calm. Your empire already has. The Leviathan's cannons fired one last time, piercing through the Titan's core. The explosion was blinding. When the light faded, the Emperor's ship was gone, nothing but dust and silence. The surviving alien ships broke formation and fled. The great battle was over. Argus reported, enemy command destroyed. Remaining fleet retreating. Mira stared at the empty space before her. How many of ours? Crew losses, 15%, Argus said. But we endure. Mira nodded slowly. Then the war is almost done. She turned her gaze toward the burning planet below. Prepare the next phase. If the Emperor is dead, their heart will crumble. Argus's systems hummed with power. Acknowledged. Activating final protocol, Eclipse mode. Mira looked into the glowing core of the ship and whispered, for Earth, and for every voice they silenced. Outside, the Leviathan's lights dimmed for a moment, then began to burn brighter than ever before. The galaxy was about to witness humanity's most powerful weapon, one final time. The stars dimmed as the Leviathan powered up its final weapon. The ship hung silent in orbit above the burning capital of the Varnock Empire, surrounded by debris and drifting wreckage. Every sensor in the galaxy picked up the same signal, a pulse of energy so strong it bent the laws of physics themselves. Argus spoke with a tone that almost sounded alive. Eclipse mode fully charged. Estimated power output, 100 times higher than primary cannon. Activation will consume all remaining reactors. Commander Mira Kane stood motionless at the center of the bridge, her eyes fixed on the holographic image of the planet below. The world glowed red, oceans turned to steam, cities burning like candles in the dark. If we do this, she said quietly, there will be nothing left. Argus replied, there was nothing left of Earth. Mira closed her eyes for a moment, memories flashing through her mind, the day the skies of Earth turned black, the screams, the silence that followed. Then it ends here, she whispered. Across the galaxy, alien broadcasts screamed warnings. The human weapon is preparing for a full eclipse detonation. All fleets retreat. But it was too late. The Leviathan's shadow stretched across the entire planet like an eclipse of doom. On the surface, alien soldiers looked up at the darkening sky and felt the air tremble. The Emperor's palace, now a ruin, stood as a monument to arrogance. In its shattered halls, survivors prayed to their dying gods. Above them, humanity's vengeance gathered. Argus began the countdown. Eclipse mode charging. 10-9. The sound filled the ship like thunder. Every human aboard watched the central core ignite, light spilling from the walls, turning the metal corridors into rivers of blue fire. 8-7. Mira gripped the console, her knuckles white. Argus, she said, make sure the message is sent before we fire. Message ready, the AI confirmed. To all civilizations, Earth remembers. Send it, she ordered. Across the stars, the message flashed on every channel. This is Commander Mira Kane of the Earth Fleet. You destroyed our home. You called us weak. But humanity endures. This is not conquest. This is balance. The final words echoed through space like a prayer. We are the children of the ashes. And we are coming home. 6-5. Argus continued, its voice steady despite the rising tremors. Energy surged through the Leviathan, making the ship glow brighter than the sun. 4-3. Outside, debris began to orbit the ship as gravity itself twisted. 2. Mira whispered. For Earth. 1. The Leviathan unleashed its power. A beam of pure white light erupted from its core, wider than a continent, brighter than creation itself. It struck the planet with unimaginable force. The surface shattered instantly, continents splitting apart, oceans evaporating, the very core of the world bursting open like glass. The shockwave expanded outward, erasing everything in its path. From orbit, it looked like a star had been born where a planet once stood. Argus recorded the event in silence. For a moment, even time seemed to stop. When the light finally faded, there was nothing left. No empire, no capital, no sound. Only dust and glowing fragments drifting through the void. The Varnock Empire was gone. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. Every species, every fleet, every leader who had ever mocked humanity now knew the truth. The age of human weakness was over. Mira stood on the bridge, the light of the dying world reflecting in her eyes. Argus broke the silence. Eclipse mode complete. Reactor levels critical. Systems failing. Sparks danced through the air. Panels cracked. The mighty ship groaned under its own power. Recommend immediate evacuation, the AI said. But Mira shook her head. No. We stay until it's done. Clarify objective, Argus asked. Transmit coordinates, she replied. The Leviathan returns to Sol. The engines ignited weakly, but the ship began to move. Slowly, painfully, it turned toward the direction of the long-lost human home system. Argus adjusted the navigation. At current power, estimated arrival in 52 days. Mira smiled faintly. Then we go home. 4 hours, silence filled the bridge. The crew moved quietly, repairing what they could, tending to the wounded. Some wept, others simply stared into the stars. They had won, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like the closing of a wound too deep to ever heal. Mira looked at the fading remains of the enemy world one last time. They mocked us, she said softly. They thought humanity would disappear. Argus replied, humanity does not disappear. It evolves. The ship continued forward, engines glowing like dying embers. Somewhere deep inside its core, old Earth music began to play, a recording from centuries ago, a human choir singing softly across the stars. The sound echoed through the corridors, gentle and haunting. The crew listened in silence, the melody a reminder of everything they had lost and everything they had reclaimed. As the Leviathan disappeared into the dark, the galaxy remained quiet, too afraid to speak the name of the world they had once destroyed. For the first time in history, humanity stood alone, not as victims, not as survivors, but as legends. And in the endless night, the Leviathan drifted onward, carrying the last flame of Earth across the stars. The journey home was silent. The Leviathan drifted through the endless dark, a wounded titan returning from war. Its once bright hull was scorched and broken, its lights flickering weakly, yet it moved with purpose. Commander Mira Kane stood alone on the bridge, watching the distant stars ahead. Somewhere beyond them lay Sol, the system where humanity had been born and buried. Argus's voice broke the silence. Estimated arrival in 23 hours. Reactor stability at 42%. Mira nodded. That's enough. Around her, the remaining crew worked quietly, repairing systems and tending to the wounded. No one spoke of victory. They all knew what they had done. They had avenged Earth, yes, but at a cost that could never be measured. Mira walked toward the observation deck. Through the shattered glass dome, she saw the faint glimmer of a yellow sun far away. Her heart tightened. After all these years, she whispered, we're finally going home. Argus spoke again. Incoming transmission detected. Mira frowned. From where? Origin unknown, the AI replied. Signal is human. Mira's breath caught. Human? That's impossible. The signal repeated, faint but clear, a voice, soft and broken by static. This is Outpost Genesis. To any surviving Earth vessel, humanity endures. Mira froze. Her eyes widened as she turned to Argus. Trace it. Source located, Argus said. Third planet of the Sol system. Earth. For a moment, time itself seemed to stop. The bridge crew stared at one another in disbelief. Earth, whispered Lieutenant Shaw. But Earth was dead. Mira's voice trembled. Set course. Maximum speed. The Leviathan's engines roared, pushing the ship forward faster than it had moved in years. Space blurred around them as the stars streaked by. Hours later, The Sol system came into view. Jupiter's swirling storms, Saturn's glowing rings, the silent debris of lost stations, all ghosts of humanity's past. And then they saw it. The blue marble. Earth. Scarred, yes, but alive. Patches of green forests and silver oceans shimmered under sunlight. The world that had once burned now breathed again. Myra's hands shook as tears filled her eyes. "We made it," she whispered. "We came home." Argus confirmed softly, life signs detected. Human colonies active. The ship entered orbit, and signals flooded in, voices of men, women, and children. Unidentified vessel, this is the Terran Reclamation Council. State your identity. Mira smiled through tears. This is Commander Mira Kane of the Earth Fleet, returning from war. There was silence on the channel for a long moment. Then cheers erupted through the speakers. By the stars, the Leviathan survived. Mira looked down at the planet. We all did. Argus began scanning the surface. Several human cities rebuilt. Population approximately 3 million. Atmospheric recovery at 70%. Radiation minimal. Mira watched the holographic map with quiet awe. After centuries of silence, Earth was rising again. The Leviathan descended slowly, passing through the clouds. Below them, vast green fields stretched where wastelands once lay. Rivers shimmered, and children ran beneath rebuilt towers. Humanity had not died, it had endured in the ashes and rebuilt from the dust. As the ship landed near an old spaceport, crowds gathered, staring in disbelief at the massive shadow falling over them. The Leviathan's ramp opened, steam pouring out as Mira stepped onto Earth's soil for the first time. The air was warm, the sky blue. She knelt down and touched the ground, her eyes wet. "Home," she whispered. A young officer approached, holding the flag of Earth, white and blue, marked with the symbol of rebirth. "Commander," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. "Welcome home." Mira took the flag and raised it high. "For the ones we lost," she said. The crowd echoed her words, their voices rising together. For a moment, the ghosts of the past seemed to fade, replaced by hope. Later, as night fell, Mira stood on a cliff overlooking the ocean. The stars reflected on the waves, and in the distance, the Leviathan rested quietly, a giant finally at peace. Argus spoke softly beside her. "Mission complete." Mira nodded. "Yes. But it's not the end, Argus. It's the beginning." The AI paused. "And what is our purpose now?" Mira smiled faintly. "To rebuild. To explore again. To remind the stars that humanity still stands." The wind carried her words into the night. High above, satellites lit up the sky, transmitting a single message to every corner of the galaxy. Earth lives. Across distant worlds, those who had once feared humanity now watched the signal and knew that the age of mankind had returned. The Leviathan would remain, not as a weapon, but as a guardian of peace, a symbol of what humanity could become when pushed beyond the edge of extinction. As dawn broke over the horizon, the first sunlight touched the ship's metal hull, making it glow like gold. Mira closed her eyes, feeling the warmth on her face. The war was over. The pain remained, but so did hope. Humanity had been mocked, broken, forgotten. But now, they were home again, and this time, they would never fall.